This is the Menopause Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Gordon. What's up, Menopod? Hey, I'm currently holding a beta course that about 3,700 women registered for called Understanding Your Hormones and Managing Your Menopause. And so far, the reviews have been off the charts. The participants are starting to understand what's happening in their bodies through plain talk, education on hormones and their function. And next up, we're going to talk about managing menopause and the best way to do that. Many of the women have had their eyes opened in ways they never have before. Super surprising. And menopause brings change we never expected. When it comes to menopause in life, the only constant is change. And I'm here to tell you that change is possible, but it won't happen overnight. The first step to making any sort of change is making the decision to change. And then we have to back that up with action. And sometimes we lose motivation, right? So that's our big challenge. How do we take any action? And even more importantly, what action should we take? So the menopause movement is here to help you with all of that. Menopause can be a time of misery, or it can be a time of unapologetic action toward creating a life we love. I woke up in the middle of my menopausal journey, hating myself, hating my body, and beating down on myself because I'd created a life I did not love. I didn't know what to do. I went on a quest to make change happen. And the result was the menopause movement and this podcast. The menopause movement has one purpose, and that is to help end the suffering caused by menopause through transformational education and coaching. And we want to help you too. So head on over to menopausemovement.com and take the quiz there. And not only will you discover your type, but we'll tailor some offerings to help you take back your life from menopause. You can also get on the wait list for our next beta event. Getting into the driver's seat of my life was the first step I took to overcoming the changes I experienced with menopause. But I did it alone, and it was lonely. The menopause movement has created a community of women who are unapologetically deciding to become their best selves one small action at a time. You can too. Join our community and start to create a life you love. Go to menopausemovement.com/beta join to get on the wait list. Today, we're talking to Emily Marquis. She's a national board certified clinical health and wellness coach. She's an RYT 200 yoga instructor and mindfulness consultant. Emily works with individuals and groups in support of creating healthy habits for sustainable lifestyle change. Drawing from her professional training and personal health challenges, she has experience in preventing, reducing, and managing chronic illness, from stress to sleep to weight loss to work-life balance. With her combined coaching and corporate HR background, Emily also works with clinics and fellow practitioners to create a village for clients to best support their well-being. She's an instructor at Emory University in their graduate coaching certification program. Emily lives in Colorado, USA with her family and loves the balance between a good TV show and an outdoor adventure. During the podcast, we talk about how Emily became a health coach, burnout, what it is and how to avoid it, how to get started with self-care, identity and the stories we tell ourselves, fitting in, motivation, courage to try something new, change as a process of trial and error, the American healthcare system, and stay to the end to find out how to let go of perfectionism. Remember, the most important relationship we have in life is the one we have with ourselves. At the end of the episode, visit menopausemovement.com/podcast, where you can find the show notes plus the links to the books and resources mentioned in the episode. And if you enjoy the episode, be sure to leave a written review, like and subscribe on YouTube, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, so you're always the first to know when each episode is released. Who should we have on the podcast next? Let me know. And what can we do to make it better? I want to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram at Dr. Michelle Gordon, DrMichellelleGordon, or on Facebook, also Dr. Michelle Gordon. And when you send me a DM, you're going to get me. I'm going to answer you. Or you can send an email to drgordon@menopausemovement.com. Thanks again for being a part of the menopause movement. Now let's get to Emily. Emily, welcome to the Menopause Movement Podcast. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So let me hear a little bit about, your background. Like what prompted you to go into health and wellness. You're a national board certified health and wellness coach. And so let's hear how you got there.
So I worked in human resources in the corporate world for large organizations for a long time. And part of that is creating a culture and through policies. And also one part of the job is benefits. The other part can be terminating people or having tough conversations. And so you really get to know people and their performance. And, obviously if someone's not performing well, it's because so many other things are going on in their life. So I started to be able to see that health problems and exhaustion and burnout, impact your job. It doesn't seem like science needs to tell you that. And then I personally went through some health challenges. I had PCOS, which is an endocrine problem, fertility challenge. I had gluten intolerance, hypothyroidism, mental health challenges, which are all interrelated, and went from doctor to doctor. And all they wanted to do was prescribe me an antidepressant. And I just knew something was deeper than that. And so I knew I had to make some personal changes in my lifestyle, in my stress, in my eating habits, my alcohol, my relationships, all of that. And I felt like I was doing it alone. And so now this profession, I've been doing it for 10 years, but it's really grown in credibility to help people. We all have the desire to feel good, but change is not easy. And sometimes getting a diagnosis or going through something health-wise can be overwhelming. So it's really important to me to just help other people feel well in the long run.
Yeah, that's great. So I'd like to touch a little bit on burnout. What kinds of burnout have you seen? I mean, I've seen lots of burnout in doctors and doctors have the highest rate of suicide of any profession. And it's sad, and one of the reasons I left medicine was just because of the way that, doctors now just become, we can't be independent anymore. We have to be a cog in a wheel. And I just wasn't willing to do that. And so what is your definition? I would say, what's your definition of burnout first? And then what are some ways that we can, first of all, self-diagnose maybe, and then secondly, treat it?
Well, burnout looks differently for everybody, but the core of it is you have nothing left to give because you have burnt out. So your tank is completely empty. And that's either because physiologically, you're not able to take care of yourself or minding important aspects of your health. So something's going to catch up with you. Sleep, stress, maybe you're ignoring some health problems, and ignore is a strong word, or not even recognizing health problems until it's too late because you're busy or stressed out. So it's basically, for me, I know I notice burnout, and then something has to give, something catastrophic, it seems like happens, like you have to change a job, or heaven forbid, a heart attack or a divorce, or, something breaks, or because the sacrifices build up. And so that's when burnout is the last resort, the breaking point usually. And for me, I start to recognize burnout when I come home and I have nothing left to give. I'm short with my family, or I'm not sleeping well, or something really small. So irritability, which is something that we all deal with hormonally, right? But also I know that if I just have nothing left to give, or show up in the way that I want to, that's to me, I'm like, okay, I'm not taking care of myself or something, or I'm just feeling really burnt out. So it can look different for so many people, but those are some triggers for me that I feel when burnout is coming up.
Right now, this topic of self-care is so big, right? So if burnout really is that we are, just burnt out and our cup is empty, how can we if we start to recognize it, and maybe our cup is half full or a quarter full or a tenth full, how can we start to fill that back up? What are some of the self-care or recommendations that you have on that?
Yeah, and self-care can feel so dreamlandish, but it doesn't have to be. And again, that can look different for everybody. So I think it's a really a good opportunity to ask, what do I need? I think that's the very first step is just when you're starting to feel that burnt out, relax and take a moment and just ask that question, what do I need? And don't judge the first thing that pops up if it is a break. I need to take a morning off, or I need to exercise. I need to sit down and read a book away from my family right now, or
Mm.
I need to eat something that feels good, or, take a bath, call a friend. So it doesn't always necessarily have to be this grandiose thing. It can be something as small as just retreating to an alone spot, or pulling something back on your schedule, going to the doctor, and maybe getting something checked out. Like, that's, if something is sending you messages, listen to it. And so
Yeah.
there's all these different things in self-care that you can do. It's really self-care, in my definition, is listening to what you need in that moment, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think for me, when I was burned out, I think for me it fundamentally changed my relationship with myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
started to look at what was really important to me, and
Mm-hmm.
being a surgeon wasn't one of them. It
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that important anymore, and so I was able to leave it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I did at the beginning of this year was I would spend like 4 hours every Sunday just doing my nails. And
Yeah.
and it was so satisfying. Now I just put clear nail polish on, but for a while there I bought a bunch of nail polish, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do my nails," and then it got like, takes too long.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
but it made me feel good. And that was the point, because I always kept my nails super 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 short
For
because of surgery.
right?
Yeah, and so now they're still they're still short, but like I never had these white lines. I always had them like all the way down, because
Yeah.
when you're tying stuff, it just gets in the way. So
Well,
so that's been pretty good.
yeah, I had this really strange thing that I love to do. So I have really healthy teeth. It's like, think I've been blessed with good genes in that area.
Yeah.
But I went to the dentist, and they're like, you really need to floss more. If you're not getting that message at the dentist, you must be winning some prizes. But so I'm like, okay, I'm going to floss some more. I'm going to do it at night, so I don't have time in the morning. And so, like, all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm like doing this whole, like, washing my face and like putting nice face moisturizer on, and then flossing my teeth. And like, yeah, it'd be like a 20-minute thing, but that, I felt like I was being taken care of, and
Yeah,
didn't,
great.
yeah. And so that, even something like that, and it would wind me down at night. So even something like that, when you're taking care of yourself, can feel really good.
Yeah, I think that's really important to look at your nighttime routine. So if your nighttime routine is sitting in the bed doing this,
Mm-hmm.
then that's going to disrupt your sleep anyway, right?
On so many
And
levels.
so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so I think the fact that you have this wind down routine that includes flossing is probably really good. And for anybody who's listening to this and you're in menopause and you're not sleeping, one of the things that we recommend is that you turn off all screens 20 minutes before bed, and that you don't use your screen in your bed. And we're so addicted to our screens because this is a little computer and it's information, and people text us and blah, 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 right?
But we feel needed.
Yeah, it does make us feel important. And that's why we really like, Facebook and Instagram, because people heart us and they mention us, and it makes us feel significant. And we like feeling significant. That's really, really important. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, those Facebook likes aren't going to, they're not going to change the world. Right. Mm-hmm. And being so in our phone to the point that it's detrimental. So I actually don't even have my phone in my bedroom anymore. I
don't either. Yeah.
Yeah. I keep it on a charger in the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. And there's like apps now that will shut it down for you. So if you have no willpower, you can actually get an app that just turns everything off for you. And I've had to use it. So, but yeah, great. Keeping the phone out of the bedroom for me has been a game changer in my sleep for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I do have an iPod that I use because I listen to like affirmations and stuff when I sleep.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And, I'll like put on a meditation music or something, and then I'll have these affirmations that go while I'm sleeping to help with my mindset. Mm-hmm. And that iPod has it doesn't have Siri. It doesn't have it. I mean, it has a connection to the internet, but it's not, I can't do it. It was such an old one that it's like really slow. It brings up stuff really slow. And so, it's all, it's almost like cheating, but I have it like set up and I listen to stuff at night, and that's pretty, I mean, it works for me. Mm-hmm. So you work with menopausal women, right? In your practice?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think is the biggest complaint that women come to you with?
Yeah, sleep is definitely high on the list.
Yeah.
And that's true of many people, but menopause for sure. And then just the variability. So, feeling inconsistent or finding something, feeling really well, and then all of a sudden not feeling well erratically. So I think just people looking for how do I manage that to feel even. And when I'm having a spike or a low, what can I do to
Mm-hmm.
move through that. So really just, okay, finding some healthy habits of, okay, when I'm feeling really irritable, that's when you can pull out a toolbox. Okay, I know that maybe doing yoga walks or works, or going on a walk, or sitting down and reading a book. So having those toolkits, like even written down, to pull out when they're starting to notice some feelings in their body, what helps
Yeah.
them get through that and building those in.
That's great. So the menopause movement has surveyed over 50,000 women in menopause, right?
Wow.
And overwhelmingly, the number one complaint for women in menopause is weight gain, because they think that
Mm-hmm.
they think that the weight gain is the thing. They think the weight gain is the thing that, when I lose the weight, then I'm going to feel like myself again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because I was sitting somewhere and I had this big epiphany about weight loss, because weight loss is hard, and it's hard for a number of reasons. I think one of the reasons it's hard is because we have to change things and change behavior. We have to change our behavior, and behavior change is hard because we get stuck in a rut and we want to just keep doing things. But the other thing is that when it comes to weight loss is an inner game. Weight loss is all about being somebody different than we are now. And we think that we haven't, and we may not have, in menopause, we may not have changed anything, right? We may just still be eating the same way, and we were trim the whole time. And the menopause comes on and we put a bunch of weight around the belly because we lost estrogen. And we still have to kind of change our state of being to understand that what got us here is not going to get us there. Right. Mm-hmm. And it takes a different sort of state of being for us to get to where we want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. I think that we have identities and stories we tell ourselves, and that, especially for women, attaches to our appearance and our weight and our body image. If we're healthy and thin and fit, that's part of who we are. That's our definition. And then a transition comes along. It's kind of a letting go of that and embracing and accepting the change. And yes, I mean, with osteoporosis on board, all those things, you have to actually be motivated to even do more things because naturally the body is just changing. So building in some strength training, and cardio is going to look different. Maybe you're not able to run the 10 miles you were, earlier in your life. So having to be totally adaptable to something that works to where you're at now. And then changing the game on like a number. Of course, we want to be healthy, but also just feeling like, well, what feels good and comfortable? When do I feel healthy? Instead of what weight am I at today?
I'm a menopause runner. I didn't start running until menopause. I mean, I ran when I was 18, and then when I was in high school, I ran just for fun, and then I had open heart surgery, and I never went back to it. And so I started running again. I back in 2015, I did this thing where we filmed a TV show, and we went to Mallorca, and I had to train to go up a mountain. And so I rode my bike up this mountain, and I trained with a trainer. And then after I realized that I could do a lot more with this body, and I was probably 30, 40 pounds heavier than I am now when I filmed that. And I said to my trainer, I said, well, let me try running. And so, I was heavy, and so he would like, okay, run a mile, or, and I would run for a minute and then walk for 5 and then run. And my heart rate would go up to 180s. And and so it was really good. And now, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, I'm running the Falmouth Road Race, which is a 7-mile run. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So it's the second time I'm doing it. So it's a fun run. I mean, I probably will do it. The first time I did it, I was maybe in better running shape. And so I'm expecting probably 11 minutes, 11:15, 11:30 per mile.
Great.
It's not going to be stellar, but my first time I did it about 11, but it doesn't matter.
So you got active in a different way.
Yeah. So I became much more active, and I always wanted to be an athlete, and I never took the time to figure out how. And I always looked at the athletes in high school, and I wanted to be one, but I didn't know how to go and start doing it. And when I was a child, I was in ballet. That was my sport, and I didn't like it. And so I did track and field for a little while, and I was fast, but I couldn't get the motivation inside of me to keep at it, and to, I couldn't, I don't know, I didn't connect with the coaches. So there were a lot of reasons, and I'm still fast. I'm a sprinter, and I mean, I can turn it on at the end, but it's kind of funny because the reason I'm bringing this all up is because I can do more with this body now. I'm 56 years old than I was able to do at 18. And that's only because of persistent, focused effort.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like
that's the key.
Gradual building with your training,
of course,
starting with the walk and being okay with it, because jumping into that and then being dedicated is the hardest step, is starting. So
it's true. And what I tell the women who join in my programs, especially in what we call the Minnow Mastery Academy, when you want to get started with something, it's really about finding something that's impossible to fail at, and then just continuing, because those things stack. There's no such thing as motivation. There's just success.
Yes.
And when you have success, you get more motivation. And so it's, and the other thing I say, because I don't know what happened, but somewhere along the line, we think that when we start something new, we have to be really good at it. And I don't know how that started, because I think that anything worth doing is worth sucking at it first. I've been trying to learn French since, say, 2015. And my French sucks, but I can talk like a 2-year-old,
Yes.
and so I can have a conversation and a little one, and I can read a little bit, and I'm happy with that. I don't work on it that often, but it's enough.
Mm-hmm. We definitely have fears of failure and also judgments of others, and that can be, and fitting in, or all of that. And so those are real. And I think that's when courage is its strongest, is taking that first step on the run, or taking that first step into a new yoga studio, or trying swimming when you never have before. That's when courage is at its most quiet, but also its biggest payoff. Is letting all that other stuff go. Who cares?
Sure. Yeah.
No one's probably thinking about what you're doing anyway.
No one's thinking about you. No one's talking about you. That's all in our thoughts. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about trial and error, and how do you help people look at change as a process of trial and error?
Well, kind of like what we were just saying, is change is not linear. It doesn't just say, okay, I'm going to, do this, and it's going to fix my menopause, and it's going to start here and end here. 10 years later, it's still all over the place. So I think that really being open and having self-compassion and grace. So you say, okay, today I'm going to give running a try, or today I'm going to give this, whatever, herb or doctor visit, or book or something a try. And then letting go of just what we said before, of letting go of failure. Like you just said, what if you didn't fail at it, if you were just giving it a try? And then noticing, okay, that worked, let's keep going. Or noticing, well, that didn't work, what can I do differently? Do I like this? Do I need to shift it a little bit more? So just taking it week by week with setting mini goals, and being okay if things don't work out, and using that as an opportunity to shift, or just try it again. So trial and error is really a mindset of trying new things. And then again, especially with menopause, you could be doing something, and then something else comes around the corner that you have to face, and it might not work anymore. So being just okay with this ever changing, what's going to happen next, and what can I try and be okay with? Yeah.
The only constant in life is change. I say that at the beginning of every podcast. And I think it's so important for us to remember that we have to adapt. I mean, while our brain wants to stay the same in a lot of ways, it wants to keep the same thoughts going and whatnot. We also have the opportunity, I think, especially in menopause, to start to examine our brain and all the beliefs that got us to where we are, and whether those beliefs are still serving us, right?
For sure. I mean, that is totally. I mean, that's the way the life. And unfortunately, it's let's be honest, a little bit annoying. I love when things work out and you don't have to change, but that's not life. So we just have to be open to trying new things and seeing if they work.
Yeah, and well, the thing is that you have this thing here in your outline about the stories we tell ourselves, and what I think is so fascinating about as I've studied neuroscience more and more and more, trying to understand how to help people create a life they love, and in creating a life you love, it requires change on our part. We have to change our state of being. And, at the menopause movement, we're here to ease suffering, right? That's the purpose of the menopause movement, is to ease the suffering that comes with menopause. And sometimes that means taking a hard look at ourselves and saying, what don't I like about my life? Right. And then taking action to make the change. And sometimes we get stuck in these stories of, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. That might be for that person, but I can't do that. And so then the answer is like, according to whom?
Right. Yes. Being very open. So as you said, science has showed us now that, the word hardwired, I mean, there's definitely, as we were talking before, some of our strengths and personality types are, who we are, but being hardwired in our behaviors and what we stand for and all of that is actually false. I mean, our brain is meant to be soft and flexible and changing constantly. It does take effort and openness to do that. And we can be, maybe you had that story when you were 18. I'm not a runner, or I don't like dance. I'm not a dancer because of some bad experience you had, or some coach, or who knows. And then look at now, here you are running. And so just being open to changing that story you told yourself, or I don't do that, or, I weigh 115 pounds forever, that might, okay, if you want that, then maybe, like you said, okay, well, let's look at what our current behaviors are that can keep us there, or maintain that, or feel healthy, or all of those different things. So we have so many stories. I know I was working with someone recently, and they were told that they could not run anymore. And they had been a runner for their that was their outlet, so many races, all of that, but just back and knee issues. And that was her outlet. And so she just kept saying over and over to me, but I'm a runner. And so finally she just, she started trying to go swimming, because that's what her doctor recommended. And she's like, it's so boring. And then she kept saying, I'm not a swimmer. So, and then she finally just gave it a try, and it worked out, and it fit into her schedule. And so just being open to changing the I ams or I can'ts to that, again, going back to, let's give it a try. Let's be open to it. And having the courage to look at ourselves. I am
is a very powerful statement.
Yes.
I am is the statement of identity. And if I say I am, XYZ, right, then that's what I am. And that's so much more than a story. I used to say I hate running, and I hated running until I didn't. And some days it sucks. I mean, I'm not going to say it's always easy. Some days it really sucks. Some days the runs are hard. But, like David Goggins says, do something that you hate, that sucks every day, right? So, because you want to push your body, the body can do a lot more than we think. But more than just physical stuff, it's also, not just physical, but just the thoughts that we have. I mean, the beliefs that we have that come from our parents. That this is not how we do things around here.
Right.
Or this is the way we've always done it. And because of that, that's the best way. Yeah.
Or some mean girl in junior high said something once. about you. And then, that became your identity forever. Yes, there's so many and statements we tell ourselves about our beliefs, and our mindsets, our judgments on ourselves. So if we could slow down and just notice what the loop is in our head, like what do we think about that?
Yeah.
I know when I'm feeling, out of sorts or not well, I was, especially growing up, I wasn't allowed to have emotion, or it was,
Mm.
bothersome to my family, or too much was the word I heard a lot. And fortunately, I have a partner now that I can say, I'm not feeling well. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. You didn't sleep that well last night, or, I'm on thyroid medication. Yeah, your medication changed this week, or you had a busy day. That makes sense. It's like, oh, I'm okay. I'm an
Yeah.
emotional person instead of I'm too much. That's something that would loop in my head all the time. It's like, oh yeah, I am
Yeah.
a rational person who is allowed to not feel that great. And that
Yeah.
just,
Some days you
yeah,
don't feel great.
right. Yeah.
Some days your body just isn't happy. I mean, I tried to get off my thyroid medication. I've been on thyroid medication since 2005.
Hmm.
And I tried, I've really cleaned up my diet and I tried to get off of it. And so I cut back on the thyroid. I was on Armour thyroid for a really long time and I started getting palpitations. So we had to change it. So I go
Mm.
back on like Synthroid and I was like, I'm not sure, I want to cut this back. So I cut it back. And so my TSH was consistently a little bit too high. It was in the
Mm.
fours or
Mhm.
something. Maybe, I don't know. I don't remember. But I was realizing that my runs were kind of sucking.
Mm. Mhm.
And so then we said, okay, let's do one pill every other day and half a pill every other day. And so I started doing that and I kind of got my mojo back. And so
Oh,
it's
really?
really funny. Yeah, I just need a little bit more, right? A little more thyroid
Mhm.
medication. And so it's really funny how the endocrine system, of course,
Mhm.
can help us with our motivation and all, so we have to make sure that our endocrine system is working. But, in menopause, we get to go through this natural rebalancing where we are like, things are a little bit weird. And then over time it rebalances, but we may not ever, like, the symptoms may never go away. And that's where
Mhm.
we have to do the inner work.
Yes, and
Yeah.
how do we deal with that and accepting the
Yeah.
change? I know there's for me journaling, and it sounds like you have you listen to powerful affirmations. One of my personal practices that helps is every morning I get up, I journal for about 10 minutes, and this is and my before my partner gets up because he's needs me sometimes in the morning. So just like get up, meditate, journal is and it's 10 minutes. But I
Hmm.
always have to I have some Louise Hay cards, a positive affirmation, and I just have to
Yeah.
write it a few times and it sticks. So it's a practice to have some
Yeah.
of those positive thoughts and identities going on. Sometimes you need someone else to feed it to you for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
Mhm.
true. And when you say practice, I mean, if you want to start a meditation practice, what I tell people is start with 1 minute. I mean, really, just start
Mhm.
with sitting for 1 minute and looking at your breath, and your thoughts are going to take
Mhm.
you everywhere, and that's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
And that's how I did it. I started with I think I started with sitting for a minute or 5 minutes, and then
Mhm.
I got up to 20 minutes, and sometimes I sit for an hour.
Mhm.
So, but it's just like the running, right? A minute at a
Yes.
time, and it's still dose dependent training the mind.
Yes. Well, and it doesn't even have to be
Yeah,
sitting. It can be like I call it the five things. If you go outside and you're on a walk, notice name five things you hear, or five,
mm,
one of your five senses. So that in it of itself is mindfulness or meditation. It doesn't have to be sitting down either. I mean, that's the most scientific way to, but mindfulness can look all sorts of different ways, and that's a great start.
that's for sure. So, what is health and wellness coaching?
So health and wellness coaching, like I said, I've been doing it for about 10 years, but it's starting to get recognized in the healthcare system. We just got board certifications, and insurances are starting to recognize it. So it's more, and like I'm part of working in clinics. So it's more on that being the intermediary between a diagnosis or a doctor visit and then going home and throwing your hands up with, well, shoot, now what do I do? Or, my doctor says I need to do this. And then you throw the piece of paper away or whatever. So it's all about lifestyle change, because stress and all of our chronic illnesses now are proven. I think 75% of doctor visits could technically be prevented from lifestyle change. Easier said than done, or we all wouldn't be, walking around trying to manage change all the time. So it's not just prevention, so through diet or exercise or stress reduction or relationships, all of that, but it's also, if you have something, a coach can work with you to set those goals every week, to be your partner and support in that, because you can't always, the doctor's pretty much not available to work you through that, and to also helping you make those changes. Like if you want to, like a coach, like when you had the running, you had a trainer with a plan and someone to check in with for accountability and support. And that's what a coach does, but on your health.
So the only thing I keep thinking about as a doctor is that our medical education system is woefully lacking if we need an intermediary to get people to do things. And I look at it from, I'm not dismissing what you do, because I think what you do is so important, but there is a huge disconnect between what we're taught in medical school and then real life application. And I think that's why we see so many doctors that burn out, because they go in with these altruistic kind of, I want to help people. And then after a few years of seeing what the system is like, they get completely jaded and angry because it's not, it's almost like medical school intentionally doesn't teach doctors how to run a business so that they have to be dependent on some corporation to pay them. And then it also intentionally doesn't teach any lifestyle modifications for disease prevention. I mean, I didn't, now I've been out of medical school for 21 years. And so I haven't looked at any medical school curricula for a long time. If they're starting to add some in, I know that there are some that are doing it in residency, talking about, more holistic kinds of things. But at the same time, I mean, that's still such a small piece. And how many people could I have, could have stayed out of the operating room if they had just changed their lifestyle and had gotten some real practical information on that from a doctor who was educated in behavior change.
Yes. And my mission is to get this in. So I work on clinical research studies, proving prevention and health coaching and all of that, so that it becomes more scientifically based, so that it can get back into or start to get into medical professions more. But yes, and I also think that there's two different personalities. I'm a huge empath. So, when I work with people, that's just my gift. I could not be a surgeon because I could not deal with the whatever I have to see. I have the trouble detaching. So if that's the right word. So I also think that there's a lot of people who are science, and then a lot of people who are huge empaths, and the cross is a beautiful blend, but it also takes a lot of time, and doctors have quotas they have to get through, or they just have this idea of pharmaceuticals, which is helpful in some situations. But yeah, it's an interesting way our healthcare system works, for sure.
Right. But it didn't used to be quotas. And
no,
insurance companies didn't used to be for profit. Insurance companies used to be not for profit. And once they lifted all those regulations on insurance companies, then that's when things started to go downhill for America. Right. So
yes,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I personally go to and I'm not like rolling in the dough money wise. I choose to go to a direct care provider that does not take insurance, and she can spend an hour with me. And I say, I want to get all these things tested. And she just says, okay, let's write the lab request. So I personally, as a patient, prefer that model.
That's how you create a partner in your healthcare. That's
Yes.
how you do it, but the problem is that the insurance model in America has decreased payments to the point that if a doctor doesn't see 5 patients every hour, the doctor can't pay their staff. And people think that doctors make a lot of money, and it's just like the reimbursement has gone down, 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 while the profits of the insurance companies have gone up, 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 up. And every time they pay a claim, they call it a medical loss. Even if it's well care, even if it's just routine, that's a medical loss to them. And you pay your premium so that they can fight and not pay your doctor. It's a very frustrating system.
Hopefully we can get that changed. I know that it's very controversial.
I have no idea how to change it. It's the only business model where you don't get paid for there's operations that my practice did that saved people's lives that the insurance companies just never paid us on, or we would get paid, years later. It's just crazy. So moving, this isn't I didn't mean to go into that, but it's so important, I think, to educate people about how the corporations, have changed medicine fundamentally in America. And that's the reason why isn't because doctors are greedy. The reason why medicine in America is, we spend the most money per capita in the world on healthcare. All right. And then we say that, that socialized medicine is not possible because we spend so much money already. But it's not that. It's because of the corporate greed, the amount of money that, corporate profit, they want to make profit for their shareholders. So that's a huge, it's a huge philosophical problem.
Yeah. Maybe some insurance company, the CEO will get a spaceship to the moon next. We'll see.
You never know. You never know. But those guys, they make a lot of profit, and I am not against profit. I love profit. I think profit is awesome, but I think that if you're profiting in a way that takes away from the pockets of the people who are providing the service, then there's something wrong. And that's
well, it's inequitable. I think the people that need the healthcare the most, it's difficult to get good healthcare because, like Medicaid, for example, the reimbursement is horrible. So that's why it's hard to go into. So then those people aren't getting served. Yeah, it's not an equitable system, to say the least, either.
Well, Medicaid pays $4 for a visit.
Yeah. I used to work in long-term care.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's crazy. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about letting go of perfect.
Well, I think that goes back to, like, for me, when I was saying if I had a bad day or I'm not feeling well or something, I had this idea or story that I had to be perfect. I had to be the perfect mom. I have to be the perfect coach. I have to be the perfect, entrepreneur, all of these, the partner, all these things. And really I was just fine just having a bad day. And so that is one way to let go of, I am not defined by imperfection. I'm defined by, I'm a good person and who's having a bad day. Also, again, in that, as we going right back to the exercise or a mindset or trying meditation or anything new, doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to work for you. And also our body images. I know that women don't just go through one transformation. If you had children, your body changes a bunch of times in that way. We have things hanging at different levels. So perfectionism is just not a reality, and trying to reach it is always going to set you up for disappointments. So what is your, I feel good, I feel well, I feel enough? What is that instead of this has to be totally perfect?
Yeah. I think when it comes to weight loss, especially, we think that we have to perfectly follow some regimen, and that's diet culture, right? And so what I love about, we have a product, it's called the 28-Day Minnow Belly Challenge, and you can get it at menopausemovement.com/challenge. And what I love about that challenge, and it's with one of our coaches, his name is Greg, he's awesome, is that we talk about how to take imperfect action and how to have progress over perfection. And so when it comes to weight loss, it's so easy to maybe have ice cream or go to one of the fast food joints or something like that, have that, and then say, oh, I blew my diet, so now I can have anything. And then we go back to our old behaviors. But like we said at the beginning, when it comes to a diet or when it comes to weight loss, that's behavior change. And the only way to change your behavior is to actually start to change your state of being. And the way we do that is imperfect action, little teeny improvements, day by day by day. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And if, I mean, we're human and we have a life. And so I think rigidity also can be a barrier. I think it is important to be disciplined and to make progress forward. But for me, I chose to eat a plant-based diet. I had a breast cancer scare. And so I was like, okay, I'm sold, going all plant-based. But I also had a piece of pizza with some cheese on it, last week. So it's like, okay, if I have one pizza, I'm going to be okay with that and not shame myself the rest of the night because I know the rest of the week I'm going to eat great. So it's like, just giving a little bit when necessary. You're not blowing the whole thing. It's just, so letting go of that too.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can have planned indulgences and I think that's great. But for me, it's like, I can't just eat one piece of pizza. So if I'm going to have pizza, I'm going to have like 5 pieces and, and then I'm going to feel shitty the next day. And, so I have to remember that when I eat stuff like that, how it makes me feel. And I think that's really important because we don't realize how long it can take us for the food that we choose to eat to cause us to feel bad. And it took me a few years ago. We were in the city in New York City and we went out and we had a bunch of, I don't know, fried food, whatever. We had indulgences. Yeah. And I realized that after eating those foods, I didn't have as much motivation. I felt just like not myself. And I was like, this is really interesting because I was trying to find more awareness about what was going on. And sometimes it would be like, if I ate crappy, it would be like, it would take 2 weeks to either get it out of my system. So I'd feel crappy for that long, or I wouldn't even notice it until 2 weeks and then be like, oh, that's why I feel that way.
Yeah. Well, everyone has their thing. That's how I am with alcohol. I'm very sensitive to alcohol and, all the things. And that I was noticing was really keeping me up at night. The 3 a.m. thinking and processing. It's like, oh, I had that glass of wine and it didn't even take much. Right. And that was a really hard change for me. I just totally cut out alcohol, and socially it gets interesting, or it's just like, oh, sometimes I just want to go out and have a drink. But now I know exactly what the consequence is, and it just isn't worth it. I would rather feel good the next day. And so when you start to notice those feel good things, it becomes neutral. It's like a no-brainer. Like, oh, okay, I'm just not going to do that. So, yeah.
So that's really, really good to have that awareness. And it took me a lot longer to get to alcohol, but the example that I use is marijuana. And marijuana is legal in a lot of places, but come on, many of us probably used it as kids, right? And so I stopped using marijuana when I was 15 or 16 years old and for weird reasons. But as an adult, I said, okay, well, let me try it again. Let me see if I like it. And so what happened was it immediately took me back to being a belligerent teenager in my head, emotionally, just that weird feeling of marijuana. And then I would just have to go to sleep because I hated the way I felt. And so it's like, oh, I don't use marijuana because I hate the way it makes me feel. And so it took me a lot longer when it came to alcohol, because alcohol immediately, in the immediate sense, makes me feel great. I love how I feel.
You're smiling.
Yeah, I'm so happy and just kind of chill and whatever. Or I'm a happy drunk. I get happy, and I'm. It's not like I'm not happy all the time anyway. But it's just it's just that alcohol kind of feeling.
Carefree. Yeah.
Yeah. It loses your inhibitions, does all those things, and then again with the sleep and then the headache. And I was just like, this stuff makes me feel like shit. I'm not going to drink this anymore. And that But it took me a lot longer to get to that realization and then to actually take the steps to change the behavior. I mean, I got a big wine collection and I don't drink that much anymore. So, I mean, I still have a drink maybe once a month, not like I used to. I used to drink almost every day and, like a glass of wine and just letting it go and saying, I don't do that. And it took me a long time because that's that I am statement again. I am not a drinker.
Yeah, it took me like 2 years, honestly, to really get to the point where I just don't have it. But I will have one every now and then. But I have to really look at the clock. It has to be before 7. If it's like 9 o'clock and a girlfriend's like, let's get together for a drink, I'll go out and have a bubbly water or something now because I know it's going to impact me and it stinks, but it just feels so much better now. And same with me for marijuana. I was giving that a try. And then I didn't want the THC because I didn't need that feeling, but I do use CBD. I'm like, okay, this seems like, this does make me feel good without the other effects of that. So there's the trial and error of like, oh, that doesn't feel good, but there's some other options here. So.
Yeah, I like CBD. CBD is good for sleep. And my friend Tina, I did a podcast with her. And it's she owns Simple Optimum Health, and there's a podcast for I don't remember what it's called, but you can do a search on the website for CBD. And she sends me these honey pops. So it's not THC, it's CBD that's in honey. And I love honey. It's so good. And so when I get on I'll every once in a while get on a kick and I'll have like 5 of them and then I feel chill, but it helps with, I think CBD helps with chronic pain too.
So much. There's so much studies. And I live in Colorado, so it's been here for a while and all the studies being done here. I mean, it's definitely a wonderful medicinal benefit for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to know, was there anything else that you were hoping to share that we didn't get to?
I don't think so. I really think we covered it. Whatever is going on with you out there as a listener, you can get through it. That is a mindset, and having that trial and error and grace and openness is the way forward and through.
I love that. And where can people find you?
Right on my website, Emily Marquis, MARQUIS.com. And you can learn about me and connect with me and all things there.
Awesome. We'll hook that up in the show notes. Thanks so much for coming to the Menopause Movement podcast today. I really appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Did you know that menopause is not a medical condition? Most doctors don't know this either. I like to say that menopause is the privilege of a long life. And to really take hold of our lives in menopause, we have to unlearn what society and the medical establishment has told us about menopause. This is why I've created this brand new course called Understanding Your Hormones and Managing Your Menopause. I want to show you how you can get on top of your menopause right now so that you can start to see it as the best time of your life. Now, this course is valued at $500 and is in the beta testing phase. And we're currently accepting applications for women to test it out for us at no charge in exchange for feedback and testimonials. But the best part is, because you're a podcast listener, you can bypass the application process and go straight to the front of the line. To register right now, simply visit menopausemovement.com/hormones, and we can get started together right now. Remember, you can get started right now at no charge to you in exchange for feedback and testimonials when you go to menopausemovement.com/hormones. And I'll see you inside the course. Thanks so much for being a part of the Menopause Movement.